All right, so with the second playtest over, I've had some time to get used to the game and get some of my rust off. I'm not going to go too deep into specific balance. I'm going to just point out a few things. I will try to share the general sentiment and things that I've personally encountered. Also note that I'm going to be citing the average player experience of people in pubs that I've encountered as well. And, you know, for everything here, there will always be an example of skill and teamwork that will counter these issues or any specific balance things, especially in the hands of veterans. But what I'm going to try and do is create a baseline here of the things I've seen. I will say, however, that this is some heavy feedback, but I really did enjoy the playtest, and it felt really great getting back in the saddle and relearning everything. And that's also saying that I greatly care about the success of this game, but I feel like we need to be very serious about the feedback as well, as I did with the mapping video. So I have a few pointers here that I've written down. I'd like to go over them. So first of all, in terms of balance and mechanics, let's get right to it. Heavies are overpowered, lights are useless, and everybody should be playing medium with a shield pack and impact nitrons. That being the flag dropping grenade. So the thing we knew was going to happen has happened. Heavies are no longer defenders. People have figured out to play them on offense, and they are starting to fat cap. But that is not the main problem here, because heavies are allowed to be powerful. But between survivalists, you know, regaining all your health during a nugget pickup, and the regen field and other things, they are unkillable for most people. So the heavy honor fuser also enters there a little bit. With a little bit of practice, that becomes an insta-gib rifle, an insta-kill rifle, because it shoots so much faster. And once you get used, well, heavies being slow, they usually have people coming at them at a predictable angle, and it becomes very easy to shoot them, especially because of the high speed on them. For any gaps left into that little setup, we have the chain gun, which is the only reliable finisher weapon in the game right now. So it is mostly pointless to try and kill a heavy, unless they in fact start grabbing flags, then you will need to, but even then, enter the impact nitron. So this leads to lights are useless, except for capping with a proper offense. Lights don't really interact with other lights, which is or shouldn't interact with other lights, which is the only class they can reliably kill. And a light has no chance against a heavy of equal skill, and needs to have at least speed advantage or height advantage to deal with a medium. Again, of equal skill. A lot of people are picking light as their first class because they wouldn't otherwise get to go fast with the blink and the thrust pack. But lights have, apart from the impact nitron and using that for a jump is already quite advanced, they have no reliable way of this jumping without injuring themselves, even with the egocentric perk, which in itself is a good hint that self-impulse is a thing. But the alternatives are just better. This creates a lot of people who are incapable of really doing anything in the light class except for half-hearted attempts at flag carrying, which will then get shut down. I will also say that the default spin fuser is useless for chasing because of the inheritance issue. It's really only good for shooting people who are slower and lower than you, but the damage isn't there for the targets there unless they're also light. I will say, as I say this, there are veterans that have already worked around the new inheritance, have figured it out, and are getting some highlight reels with it. So, but that comes from an incredible knowledge of the game, having to reset their brain, relearn the chasing patterns, which is far above anything that even a good player coming from another game will figure out soon-ish. So from that, the alternatives. I will look at one of the first examples of emergent gameplay that I've seen or I've figured out on my own, and apparently everybody already knew about it. Emergent gameplay being using things for unintended purposes. Mediums are now using the shield pack for 2 free disc jumps, or a disc and a nitron jump, making them potentially better cappers than lights. That is because of the ease of speed off of spawn, but not just that, we have a chance at speed recovery. Once the pack on cooldown is done, you just get another 2 jumps. Survivability, because of the shield's actual primary function, and this package being far more superior than the light's choices of blink and trust, with a body that is much hardier than the light. No class other than the heavy with the chain has a reliable way of finishing a target. We're not counting mid-airs for the lower brackets here, okay? For chasing, you're going to have to hope that the camper hits the ground and then hit them several times with the weapons you have, especially if they're a medium class. Enter again the nitron, also on the medium. I don't need to care about your health pool or your speed, I just need to figure out where you're going to touch the ground and make sure I'm there. This means that I get maybe only 2 shots, maybe 1 for 1 touchdown. I have no way to catch up unless I'm already going your direction or I've got my shield up for a speed boost. So this is what makes the medium Raider loadout the way to go, as the grenade launcher is also inherently the most reliable offense tool currently. So to summarize, I'm not calling anything good or bad, I'm just stating the meta that is currently developing. I'm not focusing on hard details here, because I understand that this is just a snapshot. But my point being, we are already twisting the design intent, and we're already leaving new players completely perplexed. I say this myself as a mediocre player. I've been able to dominate games as a flex midfielder, doing everything from capping to chasing to O to T, all in a single match, with the Raider loadout being grenade launcher, shield pack, nitrons, and survivalist as a perk. And this was in games where other members of my team were very much still trying to figure out the game. If 5v5 is going to be the core gameplay to balance this around, then yes, individuals will need to be powerful on their own to make an impact. And I suggest, for testing purposes, to make everyone equally overpowered in their role, as long as it doesn't run away with the design. But when this game is going to be exposed to organized team play, which we're seeing the signs of already, it's instantly going to be of an insanely high level because of our current community. And the most efficient strategy currently available is going to appear instantly. And that, for better or worse, is going to be the shape of the game. So we need to make sure that this shape is understandable, or heaven forbid, fun for the average player, because competition isn't going to show what is fun. It is going to show what is strong, what wins games, and that can be ugly. So we'll move on to one of my main physics gripes. This isn't about numbers or the jets. My main concern right now is that the mechanical difference between going slow and fast is very small, but in experience, it feels enormous. Going 50 to 100, going 100 to 150 feels like completely different games. The transfer of horizontal to vertical also feels a bit out of proportion. Now, early on, there was a design goal to say that we wanted to keep people low to the ground. Well, this has certainly not been achieved. And in fact, the mountains map has made this issue a bit larger. If you don't know the self-boost off of spawn, even if it's only just jetting up and sliding down a prominent barrier bowl, you're playing a drudgery of a game. Slow on the ground, terrible jets. If you do know how to do these things, you're soaring across a small map, high-fiving the skybox, having a great time reliving a past life. one mistake and the fast people are also going to be down on the ground with the rest. Unless you're a shield medium, then you're going back up, and yeah, if you're not getting back up to speed, and you're going to be wasting a lot of time. So best to reset and try again, which is something a lot of people aren't going to do, because that also feels terrible, as you're constantly fighting failure in movement. And I say this as a veteran again myself. It took me 5 hours, give or take, of playing, actively practicing to get comfortable with this. And that's only after I started using the Raider loadout. Now, I'm not saying maps, I've already done my feedback on that, but this is a core part of it. But speaking of which, let's talk about maps. So, I've had the time to properly test the terrain, relax a little bit, go with the flow of it. And again, the feedback still stands, but it doesn't hurt to have a specific look on things, right? So we've got mountains first, Bella Mega. The first thing that I immediately saw as I played the first 10 seconds on this, compared to the other maps, there is a scaling issue. It is not the same scale as the other maps. It is much bigger, has bigger hills and bigger slopes, but that's not the way to do things. Sorry if I'm a little forward here, but you have to maintain the same size and feature standards between all maps. You can do other things, you can make higher plateaus and stuff, but again, the interconnecting valleys are going to be key there, because this map ironically has the same issues that Bella had. It really is cursed. I can't put a finer point to it. You can get an incredible amount of speed if you know how. And I've seen people right off of spawn, I think it was in 5 seconds the flag had already been taken. It's insane how quickly people got a hang of it. But the new people, suddenly in this giant environment with anemic little jets, because they keep using them, I had the same problem. And yes, the jets are still low, but no choice, they had no chance. They wouldn't even they saw the flag up there and they start jetting up and they can't. They have to go inside the base, and then you have the tried and true Bella Mega clusterfuck. So yeah. So now let's return to the previous two maps. Let's start with the islands, or the dune map, the Crossfire analog. This is definitely the easiest one to cap on, as I've been able to do it. But it is also the most unforgiving one when you end up losing speed, as there's no natural ways of gaining speed, apart from, of course, spending resources. It is also, of course, very open, very, well, not a lot of places for offense to hide. An instance actually where I had a sniper who was very effective at stopping incoming offense players. Not so much the cappers, more the offense players. But the main issue with this whole map is that because of these elements, it is the map where there's the greatest disparity of movement skill. This shines really through. If you play well enough, there's never really a reason to slow down. And if you're slow, you barely get a chance to even shoot at the people going fast. This map does not drain any speed from the player. It's only when a mistake is made that you slow down, or if you get killed, which is why the skill gap is so great here. The exact opposite is the snow map, the Katabatic analog, which has very good line of sight blocking, and it forces you to spend too many resources, which again would be generally a good thing if we had those ways to regain speed off of the terrain itself, if you don't end up on a high hill, which this map does have. It has some height layering, so one hill atop another, a little plateau forming, but the general inclines of the slopes are too much for the current physics. And that is if you started slow. If you already gained speed, you can actually get incredible vertical height because of those steep slopes. So, which actually bypasses the need for the layered hills completely. This means that this map makes it very difficult to naturally traverse for mediums and heavies, again, without spending resources. We see a lot of pointless midfielding and destacking on this map because of that. Also, the average routes are actually very challenging, making this a very slow map for the average player, who can really only watch as the veteran cappers soar above, having figured out the flow and individually identifying good versus bad hills, which again, not just new players, but average casual players are not going to put that much thought into the map. Eventually they will learn it, but they might still not know how to use certain hills. In closing, I've seen a lot of clips and highlight reels that show the game is capable of many amazing things, and I know the design intent is to make the game as new player friendly as possible. And again, I had a great time. Even though I was generally awful, I did 1 or 2 good shots an hour that kept me going. But I've seen feedback from people who aren't yet capable of those feats, for whom the game can drag on and feel aimless, as they're not the ones flying through the sky. This is a problem that Tribes Ascend had as well. The current optimal way of playing the game, the way we are forcing our speed to play our tribes, I feel is already an exploit of the current physics and game balance. Making the game accessible for the low end, while not breaking it for the high end, will indeed be a unique challenge and will rely on the community as much as the developer. I have my finely sculpted hills to die on, and many competitive players will have theirs, but we will continue to support this game and aid the developers in rediscovering tribes as best we can. That is all. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.